challenge is how to replace those dollars. I mean, there's no way that you can look at what happened to ACORN for whatever reason and not come to the conclusion that unless, if we want to build a scalable model in the future, we have to have more resources that we control.
And how do you do it?
Well, I mean, clearly, if I could say it with total confidence, we'd all be doing it.
Right.
But I will say that building ACORN International, and part of the reason that, Fred probably found organizing so therapeutic is so many of us have probably lost our minds already. So we've done things like buy a coffee house at Fair Trade Coffee to directly support 4 of our offices in Central America right out of the gross proceeds. And, the political values are good. Our own ability to either do a better job at that coffee house or not in New Orleans can fuel the growth of the organization in complementing those 4 offices, Lima, Peru, 2 in Honduras, and Mexico City, to increase their own resources. Trying to make alliances to move, once again, coffee from cooperatives we work with in Central America to open up markets in North America where they can do better as producers. Consumers get good coffee, and we can make a percentage that supports more growth there. So it's one thing after another. My motto now is we eat what we kill. That unless we can control those resources, unless we can move in such a way that we can feed the army we're building, we're not going to be able to build that. And unfortunately, that's I don't know, I have a long perspective given what I saw happen with ACORN over so many years before we got to the size that we can have this conversation. So ACORN International is a long way from even pretending to be where we can look at the kind of scale that ACORN in the U.S. was possible, could achieve. But Canvas programs, are huge parts of support for many organizations, and I think we have to look at how we can control more of those. Land banks, I think, looking at, I was just in Youngstown and Pennsylvania and a number of other places, and I think, and this is like, I'm so urban, what the hell do I know? I think we better learn how to do farming in some of this reduced footprint where we're winning land back, we're winning demolitions in Buffalo, Detroit, Youngstown, throughout the Iron Belt. That property is now cheaper than agricultural property here in Wisconsin and Iowa. I think maybe we better learn something about carrots and radishes and whatever and support our institutions. We'll see.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad I asked.
It does seem to me that there is a question about dollars, but there's also a question about how we actually rethink about what these organizations' greatest resources are, which are the people in the organizations. And so it does seem to me that the question about how staff-intensive the organizations are is another threshold question that we have to relook at. There are clearly people in these communities that are part of these organizations that can and are willing to do more, but there's a developmental model organizationally that we have to rethink and reconstruct in order to be able to really take advantage of those talents. And so I actually think that we're going to be forced into that model because I don't think the money is going to be there. Better that we actually proactively think about it and begin to develop some ways to build organizations more in a way that utilizes skills and talents of people that are in the communities.
One more step. So I argue now we have to build an all-volunteer army. Point about Occupy, I mean, it's such a painful process. Anybody who's ever been to a General Assembly and community organizers are just losing their minds and can't abide by it. I actually think the one single contribution to the work that the Occupy people are making is, in fact, that process. Because it's at least an effort to deeply engage everybody who tries to participate. And so it's not a perfect pearl yet, I wouldn't shine this thing, but that's part of the problem, and I couldn't agree more with Gary, although we hadn't talked about this. We need to more deeply engage people so that they're more empowered to be able to build the organization and to create a wider, scalable ability to act than what something like ACORN with 1,000 people on the payroll could do. We're a long way from being able to reimagine what it would ever take to get 1,000 people on the payroll for anything even remotely in this country or somewhere else. So there has to be an organizing model that's much simpler than the one I devised for ACORN.
Are you guys ready to give up on government money?
Huh?
Are you ready, are you saying that it's time to give up on government money?
Well, the irony is that ACORN wasn't getting government money, so why that
Yeah, that's
became an
true.
issue?
Okay.
I mean, one of the mistakes we made is we were doing 50,000 tax returns. Why in the world are we not, asking people to pay for it? I mean, so now in talking to others, I mean, people are gladly willing to pay 50. I mean, our constituency always probably never understood why housing counseling were doing $75,000 a year. But people have put up a couple $100s for that. I mean, a pilot I did in Phoenix to just test this out 2 years ago, basically to help loan modifications, people were paying $2,000, $2,500. So we said, okay, will you pay $750 for, organizational support on loan modifications over 3 months? All of a sudden, within 6 months, we're bringing $10,000 a month. There was no outside money. I mean, to raise outside money these days, that pretty much would need a ski mask and a gun. So luckily I believe in this, but I also know that this is the way we got to go.
And he also has a ski mask.
When necessary.
So I wanted to add one other thing to this. I think there's also this dimension about we eat what we win. And I think that ACORN was really good at basically getting corporations like H&R Block and others to the table, winning money to support the organization and funding the organization by focusing on targets, winning victories. And there's no reason why, I mean, primarily it's the private sector that would be better at that, who knows how long term, but I think the government also is a funding source and sort of, about winning victories. I think that the whole idea of foundations were somehow sanctimonious, that they were okay, and that government was tainted, and you never take money from government, you always do from foundations. I think the lesson of ACORN has said, look, that's definitely completely wrong, it's money, you got to make sure you're winning the victories with the power of your constituencies. And there are plenty of places throughout the world now where public sectors are funding, sort of local organizing, and in Latin America, and even conservative effort in maybe not best example in the UK, others where you can, in Canada, where there's more public support, Montreal, etc. So I think we need to rethink both the foundations versus government, but this whole idea of winning the victories, that this is what we get, and this is how we fund the organization, as well as the other kind